Captain Rebecca Viper Morrison had always believed that her Apache helicopter was invincible. After 7 years of combat operations and over 2,000 flight hours, she had never lost an aircraft or failed to complete a mission. Her steel gray eyes had seen the worst combat zones on Earth, and her precision with the Apache's weapon systems had earned her the call sign that struck fear into enemy forces across 3 deployments. The morning that changed everything started. Like any other reconnaissance mission, Rebecca was conducting routine surveillance along enemy supply routes with her co-pilot, Lieutenant Danny Rodriguez, when the world exploded around them. Multiple surface-to-air missiles had overwhelmed their defensive countermeasures, and suddenly the invincible Apache was spiraling toward the ground with its main rotor system destroyed. "Mayday, mayday. Apache 27 going down." Rebecca's voice remained steady even as she fought to control the dying aircraft. Years of training kicked in as she executed an emergency auto-rotation landing, using every ounce of skill to bring them down in a small clearing surrounded by dense forest. The impact threw her against the cockpit wall, and when she regained consciousness, Danny was gone. Blood trickled down her forehead as she realized the horrible truth. Her co-pilot hadn't survived the crash, and enemy soldiers were already surrounding the wreckage. American pilot. Come out with hands visible. The accented English carried an edge of satisfaction that made Rebecca's stomach turn. She had no choice but to comply, emerging from her destroyed Apache with her hands raised, knowing that her nightmare was just beginning. Commander Viktor Petrov watched from his armored vehicle as his soldiers secured the captured American pilot. At 45 years old, Petrov had built his reputation on successfully extracting intelligence from captured enemy personnel, and helicopter pilots were especially valuable prizes. Their technical knowledge of aircraft systems and tactical procedures could provide crucial advantages in ongoing operations. "Just another American pilot," Petrov said dismissively as Rebecca was dragged past his vehicle. "She will provide useful information about helicopter operations, then serve as leverage for prisoner exchanges." The ride to the prison compound took 3 hours through winding mountain roads that seemed designed to discourage rescue attempts. Rebecca used every minute to study the terrain, noting landmarks and calculating distances that might prove useful later. Her survival training had prepared her for capture, but nothing could have prepared her for the psychological impact of seeing her fellow prisoners. The compound held 13 other American military personnel, most of them Special Forces soldiers, who had been captured during various operations over the past several weeks. Their hollow eyes and careful movements told Rebecca everything she needed to know about Commander Petrov's interrogation methods. "Welcome to paradise, Captain," whispered Sergeant First Class Michael Thompson during a brief moment when the guards weren't watching. "Hope you're ready for some quality time with our gracious host." Rebecca's first interrogation took place in a concrete room that smelled of fear and desperation. Commander Petrov sat across from her, his pale eyes studying her with the intensity of a predator examining prey. His questions focused on Apache helicopter systems, base security measures, and tactical procedures that could give enemy forces significant advantages. "Captain Morrison, we know you have flown over 300 combat missions," Petrov began, his English precise but heavily accented. "Your cooperation will make this process much more pleasant for everyone involved." "Rebecca Morrison, Captain, United States Army," she responded automatically, providing only the information required by the Geneva Convention. But even as she spoke, her mind was already working on something else entirely. For the past 3 days, Rebecca had been conducting her own reconnaissance operation right under her captors' noses. Every interaction with guards provided information about their routines, equipment, and the overall security structure of the compound. Her mechanical engineering background gave her insights into the camp's infrastructure that other prisoners couldn't recognize: power systems, communication equipment, defensive installations that could be exploited during an escape attempt. More importantly, her helicopter pilot training had taught her to think tactically about terrain, defensive positions, and aircraft capabilities. She could hear helicopter patrols conducting security sweeps around the prison camp, and her experience allowed her to identify aircraft types, flight patterns, and operational procedures with deadly accuracy. The enemy was using modified attack helicopters with predictable patrol schedules and minimal security awareness. Their pilots followed established flight routes and landing procedures that prioritized efficiency over defensive precautions. Exactly the kind of weaknesses that could be exploited by someone with advanced tactical knowledge, thought as Rebecca lay on her narrow cot that third night, listening to the distant sound of helicopter rotors. A plan began forming in her mind. The guards who had laughed at her capture, the commander who dismissed her as just another prisoner, they had all made the same critical mistake. They had underestimated exactly who they were dealing with. The morning of her fourth day in captivity, Rebecca learned something that changed everything. During the brief exercise period when prisoners were allowed outside their cells, Sergeant Thompson managed to communicate crucial information that had been developing while she was dealing with her own interrogations. "Captain, we've been planning something," Thompson whispered as they walked in a small circle around the compound's exercise yard. "Coordinated escape attempt. Tonight during the guard shift change." Rebecca studied the compound's layout with fresh eyes, noting defensive positions and security cameras that she had cataloged over the past several days. Thompson's plan was tactically sound, but relied on conventional escape doctrine, stealth, evasion, and survival techniques designed for personnel operating behind enemy lines on foot. "Sergeant, enemy helicopters will have thermal imaging," Rebecca pointed out quietly. "They can track us from above, even in thick forest cover. Running on foot gives us maybe 6 hours before they corner us in terrain of their choosing." Thompson looked at the pilot with growing interest. Throughout his 3 weeks of captivity, he had been developing escape plans based on special forces training, but helicopter pilot perspective offered insights that infantry experience couldn't address. "Captain, what are you thinking?" Rebecca had been observing enemy helicopter operations for 3 days straight, noting flight patterns, aircraft types, and security procedures that revealed critical weaknesses she could exploit. Her plan was so unconventional that it took several minutes to explain the basic concept. Instead of running from their helicopters, what if we took one? The idea of capturing an enemy helicopter during a prison break was so audacious that Thompson initially thought Rebecca was suffering from head trauma. But her detailed knowledge of helicopter operations and tactical capabilities quickly convinced him that such an approach might be their only realistic chance for successful escape. "Even if we could capture a helicopter, can you actually fly enemy aircraft?" Rebecca's engineering background and extensive flight experience had taught her that helicopters operated on universal principles regardless of their country of origin. While control layouts and specific systems might differ, the fundamental principles of rotary wing flight remain constant across all aircraft. "I've been studying their patrol patterns for 3 days straight," Rebecca explained. "They use attack helicopters with predictable flight routes and minimal security awareness. If we can get to one during landing, I can fly it out of here." That afternoon, Rebecca's interrogation session with Commander Petrov took on new significance. Every question about helicopter capabilities provided her with additional intelligence about enemy aircraft and operational procedures. When Petrov asked about Apache weapon systems, Rebecca carefully observed his reactions to gauge what aircraft capabilities he considered most threatening. "Your helicopter was quite impressive, Captain," Petrov commented during one exchange. "But our aircraft are superior in many respects. More robust, more reliable under adverse conditions." Rebecca filed away every detail, Understanding that Petrov's pride in enemy aircraft would provide valuable insights into their capabilities and limitations. His casual remarks about helicopter specifications revealed information that would prove crucial during her planned escape. "I imagine your pilots are quite skilled," Rebecca responded carefully, fishing for additional intelligence. "Naturally. They conduct security patrols twice daily with precision timing," Petrov said, inadvertently confirming flight schedules that Rebecca had already identified through careful observation. That evening, as the compound settled into its nighttime routine, Rebecca and Thompson met with the other prisoners to discuss their modified escape plan. The approach they developed was unlike anything attempted in conventional prisoner of war scenarios. Instead of simply fleeing the camp, they would conduct a tactical operation designed to capture enemy aircraft and use it to extract all American prisoners while neutralizing the facility's capability to hold future captives. "This is insane," muttered Staff Sergeant James Wilson, a Special Forces soldier who had been captured 2 weeks earlier. "We're talking about stealing a helicopter from people who shoot prisoners for entertainment." "Wilson's got a point," added Corporal Lisa Parker. "If this goes wrong, we're all dead." Rebecca understood their concerns, but her analysis of the tactical situation indicated that conventional escape attempts would likely fail against enemy forces who controlled the terrain and possessed air support capabilities. "Listen, everyone," Rebecca said quietly. "I've flown over 300 combat missions. I know helicopter operations, and I know what our enemies are capable of. Running through the forest on foot is exactly what they're expecting us to do. Their helicopters will hunt us down using thermal imaging and superior firepower. But if we can capture one of their aircraft," Thompson added, beginning to understand Rebecca's tactical thinking, "we change the entire dynamic of the situation." Rebecca's plan required precise timing, coordinated action, and the ability to adapt to rapidly changing tactical circumstances. Her helicopter expertise would be combined with Thompson's special operations training to create an approach that enemy forces wouldn't anticipate or counter effectively. "Tomorrow evening, their helicopter conducts regular patrol and refueling operations," Rebecca explained. "There's a brief window when the aircraft is vulnerable to ground assault by people who understand helicopter systems." As the prisoners discussed logistics and timing, Rebecca felt something she hadn't experienced since her capture: hope. Not the desperate hope of people planning to run through enemy territory, but the calculated confidence of a professional warrior who had identified her enemy's critical weakness. Commander Petrov and his guards had made a fundamental error in judgment. They had captured a helicopter pilot and assumed she was helpless without her aircraft. Tomorrow night, they were going to learn exactly how wrong they had been. The morning of the escape brought an unexpected complication that nearly derailed Rebecca's entire plan. Commander Petrov appeared at her cell door earlier than usual, his expression suggesting that something had shifted in the camp's routine. "Captain Morrison, you have been selected for enhanced interrogation," Petrov announced with satisfaction that made Rebecca's blood run cold. "Your technical knowledge requires more intensive questioning methods." Rebecca was escorted to a different section of the compound, one that she had never seen during her previous interrogation sessions. The room contained equipment that clearly indicated Petrov's enhanced methods went far beyond conventional questioning. Medical instruments, electrical devices, and restraint systems suggested that her situation had just become exponentially more dangerous. "Your fellow prisoners have been quite stubborn about providing useful intelligence," Petrov explained as guards secured Rebecca to a metal chair. "Perhaps watching your enhanced questioning will encourage their cooperation." The psychological warfare aspect of Petrov's threat was obvious. He intended to use Rebecca's suffering to break the resistance of the other prisoners. But what he didn't understand was that his enhanced interrogation schedule had created an opportunity that Rebecca could exploit. "Commander, I'm prepared to discuss helicopter systems in exchange for better treatment of the other prisoners," Rebecca said, calculating that cooperation would keep her alive and buy time for the evening escape attempt. Petrov's eyes lit up with predatory satisfaction. Finally, the stubborn American pilot was showing signs of breaking under pressure. Her offer to discuss technical information in exchange for prisoner welfare demonstrated the kind of psychological vulnerability that his interrogation methods were designed to exploit. "Excellent, Captain. Let us begin with Apache weapon systems and targeting capabilities." For the next 6 hours, Rebecca provided carefully selected technical information that satisfied Petrov's intelligence requirements while avoiding anything that could compromise ongoing American operations. Her mechanical engineering background allowed her to discuss helicopter systems in sufficient detail to convince Petrov that he was receiving valuable intelligence. But the real value of the extended interrogation session was the intelligence Rebecca gathered about enemy operations. Petrov's questions revealed significant details about enemy helicopter capabilities, patrol schedules, and defensive procedures that would prove crucial during the evening escape attempt. "Your aircraft's thermal imaging systems," Petrov asked during one exchange. "What are their operational limitations under adverse weather conditions?" The question confirmed that enemy forces possessed thermal imaging capabilities, but also suggested that they had identified specific limitations that Rebecca could potentially exploit. Every detail provided additional tactical intelligence that improved their chances of successful escape. By afternoon, Rebecca had established enough credibility with Petrov that he began discussing enemy aircraft capabilities with casual pride. His descriptions of helicopter performance and defensive systems provided insights that would have taken weeks of conventional intelligence gathering to acquire. "Our aircraft are superior to American helicopters in several important respects," Petrov boasted. "More reliable, more robust, better suited for operations in difficult terrain." Rebecca filed away every specification and operational detail, understanding that Petrov's pride in enemy equipment was providing her with a comprehensive briefing on the aircraft she intended to steal that evening. When the interrogation session finally ended, Rebecca was returned to her cell with a new understanding of both the opportunity and the risks involved in their escape plan. Petrov's enhanced questioning had revealed critical intelligence, but it had also demonstrated that their situation was becoming increasingly desperate. "How did it go?" Thompson asked quietly when the guards were out of hearing range. "He gave me a complete briefing on enemy helicopter capabilities," Rebecca replied, "and he thinks I'm ready to break under pressure." That evening brought the kind of opportunity that military personnel are trained to recognize and exploit. Guard shift changes created brief windows of reduced security awareness, and Rebecca's analysis of patrol schedules indicated that enemy helicopter operations follow predictable patterns that could be intercepted. "Everyone clear on the plan?" Thompson asked as they prepared for the most dangerous operation any of them had ever attempted. Rebecca checked the improvised weapons and tools they had managed to acquire over their weeks of captivity. The escape attempt would require split-second timing and flawless execution, with no margin for error or hesitation. "Remember, we need to take the helicopter intact," Rebecca emphasized. "Any damage to flight systems means we're all walking home." Through enemy territory, as darkness settled over the compound, Rebecca felt the familiar calm that had carried her through hundreds of combat missions. The psychological pressure of captivity, the physical stress of interrogation, and the desperate circumstances of their situation all faded into background noise. She was no longer a helpless prisoner in enemy hands. She was Captain Rebecca "Viper" Morrison, combat pilot, about to demonstrate why helicopter pilots were among the most dangerous warriors in the American military. Commander Petrov and his guards had made their final mistake by assuming that a fiend at a Talantabadis captured pilot was somehow less threatening than a pilot with an aircraft. Tonight, they were about to discover that some prisoners become more dangerous in captivity than they ever were in freedom, especially when they get their hands on the very weapons that were supposed to be used against them. The evening air carried the distant sound of helicopter rotors as Rebecca and Thompson made final preparations for an escape, attempt that defied every conventional rule of prisoner operations. Their plan relied on timing so precise that a single miscalculation would result in death or recapture. But Rebecca's analysis of enemy helicopter patterns had revealed a critical vulnerability. 2 minutes after the guard shift change, their patrol helicopter will approach the refueling area, Rebecca whispered to the assembled prisoners. The crew will be focused on routine procedures, not defending against ground assault. Sergeant Thompson had distributed improvised weapons and communication equipment acquired during their weeks of careful planning. Each prisoner understood their role in the coordinated operation, but success depended entirely on Rebecca's ability to capture and operate enemy aircraft under combat conditions. Captain, what if their helicopter systems are too different from American aircraft? Asked Corporal Parker, voicing the concern that had haunted everyone's thoughts. Rebecca had spent 3 days analyzing every detail of enemy helicopter operations that she could observe from the compound. Her mechanical engineering background and extensive flight experience provided insights that allowed her to identify universal principles of helicopter operation regardless of aircraft nationality. Helicopters fly according to the same physics everywhere, Rebecca replied with quiet confidence. Control layouts might be different, but lift, thrust, and navigation principles are identical. At exactly 2300 hours, the escape began with Thompson's team creating a diversion at the compound's eastern perimeter. Camp alarms activated as enemy forces responded according to standard security protocols, deploying personnel to contain what appeared to be a conventional prison break attempt. All prisoners attempting escape through eastern perimeter came the radio transmission that Rebecca intercepted using captured communication equipment. Deploy helicopter support to track fleeing Americans and coordinate with ground pursuit teams. The enemy's tactical response was exactly what Rebecca had predicted. They were treating the situation as a standard prison break, deploying aircraft to hunt fleeing prisoners, rather than defending against the possibility that their own helicopter might become a target. Rebecca and a select team of 5 prisoners moved toward the helicopter landing zone, while enemy forces concentrated on the diversion at the opposite end of the compound. Their route took them through defensive positions that had been carefully studied over weeks of observation. Viper, enemy helicopter approaching from northwest, Thompson reported through their improvised communication system. Approximately 2 minutes to landing zone. Rebecca checked their position relative to the refueling area where enemy helicopters conducted routine maintenance and coordination with ground forces. The timing had to be perfect. Too early and they would be exposed to defensive fire. Too late and the aircraft would escape their reach. The attack helicopter landed with standard security procedures, its crew expecting to coordinate with ground forces about pursuing escaped prisoners rather than defending against assault on their own position. The pilot and co-pilot were conducting post-flight checks when Rebecca's team emerged from concealed positions surrounding the landing zone. "Nobody moves," Thompson shouted while Rebecca approached the helicopter with technical knowledge that allowed her to quickly assess its condition and operational status. The enemy aircrew's shock at being ambushed by the same prisoners they had been sent to hunt provided Rebecca with the tactical advantage she needed to secure the aircraft without damage to critical flight systems. Her helicopter experience allowed her to understand the aircraft's capabilities and limitations. Immediately, "Thompson, this aircraft is fully fueled and armed," Rebecca reported as she examined the captured helicopter. All systems appear operational. I can fly this out of here, but we need to move fast. Rebecca's rapid assessment of the enemy helicopter revealed that while control layouts differed significantly from American aircraft, the fundamental flight principles were identical to her Apache training. Her engineering background allowed her to quickly understand foreign control systems and navigation equipment. All prisoners board immediately, Rebecca commanded as she familiarized herself with the helicopter's cockpit layout. This aircraft can carry everyone, but we have maybe 5 minutes before enemy forces coordinate a response. As American prisoners loaded into the captured helicopter, Rebecca began startup procedures using her understanding of rotary wing aircraft to adapt her Apache training to enemy equipment. The control systems were different, but helicopter flight physics remained constant regardless of aircraft design. Viper. Enemy forces are mobilizing ground units and requesting additional air support, Thompson reported while monitoring captured radio communications. They still don't realize we've taken their helicopter. Rebecca engaged the helicopters, weapon systems, and began takeoff sequence, using terrain masking and low-level flight techniques to avoid detection by enemy radar systems. But her plan wasn't simply to escape with the rescued prisoners. She intended to use the captured helicopter to conduct tactical strikes against the prison camp that had held them captive. Thompson, I'm going to make sure this facility can't hold any more American prisoners, Rebecca announced as she brought the helicopter to combat readiness. They used their aircraft against us. Now we're going to use it against them. The systematic attack on Commander Petrov's prison compound was conducted using tactics that Rebecca had perfected during 7 years of Apache operations, but executed with an enemy helicopter that the camp's defenses weren't designed to counter. Her precision strikes eliminated guard towers, communication equipment, and defensive positions while avoiding areas where prisoners might still be held. The psychological impact on enemy forces was devastating. Seeing their own aircraft attacking their positions shattered morale and created panic that made organized resistance impossible. "This is impossible," came Petrov's panicked radio transmission. "Our own helicopter is attacking us. Our escaped prisoners flying our aircraft." Rebecca's response was broadcast on the same frequency, her voice calm and professional despite the intensity of combat operations. "Commander Petrov, this is Captain Rebecca Morrison, United States Army. You captured a helicopter pilot, and now you're learning why that was a very bad idea." Commander Petrov stood in his command bunker, staring at radio equipment that was delivering impossible reports from his defensive positions throughout the compound. His own attack helicopter was systematically destroying the prison facility that had been his pride and professional accomplishment for over 2 years. "Sir, we're receiving conflicting reports," his communications officer stammered. "Ground units report that our helicopter is conducting precision strikes against our positions, but our pilot roster shows all aircraft accounted for." Petrov's mind struggled to process the tactical situation. The American prisoners had escaped less than 30 minutes ago, yet somehow they had acquired an attack helicopter and were using it with devastating effectiveness against targets they shouldn't have been able to identify from ground level. "Contact air defense immediately," Petrov ordered. "Prepare to engage hostile aircraft." "Sir, our air defense systems are programmed to recognize friendly aircraft," the officer replied. "The helicopter attacking us is broadcasting correct identification codes." Outside the bunker, Rebecca was conducting the most precise close air support mission of her career, using enemy weapons to eliminate the infrastructure that had been designed to break American prisoners. Her strikes targeted guard towers, communication arrays, and defensive positions with surgical accuracy that demonstrated complete mastery of the captured aircraft. Every target was selected based on intelligence she had gathered during 3 days of careful observation while pretending to be a helpless prisoner. Her mechanical engineering background had allowed her to identify critical systems and structural vulnerabilities that would maximize damage while minimizing risk to any remaining prisoners. Thompson, enemy forces are requesting air support from nearby bases, Rebecca announced through the helicopter's communication system. We have maybe 10 minutes before additional aircraft arrive. Copy, Viper. All prisoners are secure, and we've confirmed no Americans remain in the compound. Rebecca's final attack run eliminated the command bunker where Petrov was coordinating defensive efforts. The precision strike demonstrated helicopter combat capabilities that exceeded anything enemy forces had experienced, proving that innovative tactics could overcome conventional defensive measures. Petrov, this is your last lesson in helicopter operations, Rebecca broadcast on all enemy frequencies. Never underestimate what a properly trained pilot can accomplish with any aircraft. The flight toward friendly territory required navigating through mountainous terrain while maintaining low altitude to avoid enemy radar detection. Rebecca's route had been calculated using GPS coordinates and terrain analysis that she performed using the captured helicopter's navigation systems. Friendly forces. This is Captain Rebecca Morrison flying captured enemy helicopter with 13 rescued American prisoners. She transmitted as they approached the border between hostile and friendly territory. The radio response reflected amazement from American controllers, who were processing an unprecedented situation. Captain Morrison, confirm you are flying enemy aircraft with rescued prisoners. Confirmed, Control. We captured enemy helicopter during prison break and eliminated the facility that was holding us. All American prisoners are safe and en route to friendly territory. Rebecca's successful escape and subsequent destruction of the enemy prison camp represented a tactical victory that exceeded conventional military expectations. Her use of captured aircraft to conduct precision strikes against former captors demonstrated capabilities that challenged standard assumptions about prisoner operations. The landing at friendly territory brought crowds of military personnel who had never witnessed anything comparable to Rebecca's operation. Her calm professionalism while exiting the enemy helicopter impressed observers who understood the tactical complexity of what she had accomplished. Captain Morrison, how did you learn to operate enemy aircraft? Asked Colonel James Patterson, the base commander who debriefed Rebecca immediately after landing. Sir, helicopter flight principles are universal, Rebecca replied. My mechanical engineering background helped me adapt to different control systems, but the fundamental physics remain constant. Intelligence officers spent hours documenting every detail of Rebecca's prison escape and helicopter capture, understanding that her tactical innovations could revolutionize prisoner operations and survival training throughout the military. The enemy made a critical error, Rebecca explained during her formal debriefing. They assumed that capturing a helicopter pilot eliminated the threat she represented. Instead, they provided me with opportunity to study their aircraft operations and identify weaknesses that could be exploited. Colonel Patterson reviewed the intelligence reports from Rebecca's mission, noting that enemy forces had lost not only a critical detention facility, but also valuable aircraft and personnel due to tactical mistakes that could have been avoided. Captain, your actions have demonstrated capabilities that will change how we approach prisoner survival training, Patterson observed. Enemy forces will never again assume that captured pilots are helpless without their aircraft. 6 months later, Major Rebecca Morrison was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for her role in leading the prison break and eliminating enemy capabilities using captured aircraft. But more importantly, her actions had proven that American military training prepared soldiers to adapt and overcome even when conventional resources were unavailable. Commander, Petrov's facility was never rebuilt. and intelligence reports indicated that enemy forces became significantly more cautious about capturing American helicopter pilots after learning about Rebecca's escape and subsequent attack using their own aircraft. Today, Lieutenant Colonel Rebecca Viper Morrison trains military aviators in survival, evasion, resistance, and escape techniques that emphasize adaptive thinking and the importance of understanding that any aircraft can become a weapon in the hands of a properly trained pilot. Her students learn that the most dangerous assumption enemy forces can make is believing that captured pilots are helpless prisoners, rather than highly trained warriors who will use any available resources to continue fighting and protect fellow soldiers. 3 hours after Rebecca's devastating attack on the prison compound, enemy forces throughout the region were mobilizing for the largest manhunt operation they had ever conducted. Command centers across multiple bases received urgent communications about American prisoners who had somehow acquired an attack helicopter and used it to eliminate a critical detention facility. General Marcus Volkov, the regional commander responsible for prisoner operations, convened an emergency briefing with his senior staff to address a situation that challenged everything they understood about American military capabilities. Explain to me how escaped prisoners captured our helicopter and conducted precision strikes against a fortified compound, Volkov demanded, his voice carrying the kind of controlled fury that made subordinates exceptionally attentive. Sir, preliminary reports indicate the Americans had detailed knowledge of our aircraft specifications and operational procedures, replied Colonel Viktor Petrov, recently evacuated from his destroyed prison facility. Their pilot demonstrated capabilities that exceeded our intelligence estimates. General Volkov studied tactical reports that documented Rebecca's helicopter operation with professional interest. The precision of her strikes, the timing of her attack, and her apparent mastery of captured aircraft suggested training that went far beyond conventional pilot qualifications. This Captain Morrison, Volkov mused while reviewing intelligence files. Her record indicates extensive combat experience, but nothing that explains these tactical capabilities. Meanwhile, Rebecca was flying the captured helicopter through mountain valleys that provided natural concealment from radar detection while maintaining course toward friendly territory. Her passengers included 13 rescued American prisoners, whose survival depended entirely on her ability to navigate hostile airspace without being intercepted. Viper were receiving multiple radio transmissions from enemy air defense systems, Thompson reported while monitoring communication frequencies. They're coordinating search patterns to locate our position. Rebecca's response demonstrated the tactical thinking that had made her one of the most effective helicopter pilots in American military service. Instead of attempting to outrun enemy aircraft with superior performance capabilities, she would use terrain masking and electronic warfare techniques to avoid detection entirely. They're looking for a stolen helicopter trying to escape, Rebecca explained as she guided their aircraft through a narrow canyon that concealed them from airborne radar systems. But they're not prepared for someone who understands their search procedures well enough to avoid them. The enemy search operation involved 12 aircraft conducting coordinated sweeps across hundreds of square miles of mountainous terrain. Their pilots were following standard search protocols designed to locate and intercept aircraft attempting to flee through predictable escape routes. But Rebecca's route had been calculated using intelligence she gathered during her captivity, combined with tactical knowledge that allowed her to predict enemy search patterns with remarkable accuracy. Her path toward friendly territory exploited gaps in enemy radar coverage that conventional escape planning wouldn't have identified. All units maintain search altitude and follow assigned grid patterns. Came the radio transmission from enemy air controllers. Target aircraft is believed to be following valley routes toward border region. Rebecca smiled grimly as she listened to enemy communications that confirmed her tactical analysis. Their search operation was designed to intercept aircraft using conventional escape routes, but her mechanical engineering background had allowed her to calculate alternative paths that avoided predictable flight patterns. Thompson, enemy forces are concentrating their search in areas where they expect us to be, Rebecca explained while maintaining low-altitude flight through terrain that challenged even her exceptional piloting skills. They're following doctrine, instead of thinking tactically. The flight towards safety required 4 hours of precise navigation through hostile territory while avoiding multiple enemy aircraft that possessed superior speed and firepower. Rebecca's success depended on maintaining perfect situational awareness while exploiting every advantage that terrain and weather conditions could provide. "Border checkpoint ahead," announced Corporal Parker, who had been monitoring GPS coordinates using the captured helicopter's navigation systems. "Friendly territory in approximately 15 minutes. But Rebecca's tactical experience warned her that enemy forces would concentrate their intercept efforts near border regions where escape routes became predictable. The final approach to friendly territory would be the most dangerous phase of their entire operation. Everyone prepare for evasive maneuvers, Rebecca commanded as enemy radar signatures appeared on their detection systems. "They're going to make their final attempt to stop us before we reach friendly airspace." The aerial combat that followed demonstrated why Rebecca had earned her call sign during combat operations in Afghanistan. Her evasive techniques and tactical maneuvering pushed the captured helicopter beyond its design limitations while avoiding enemy missiles and machine gun fire. "Friendly forces, this is Captain Morrison requesting immediate air support," Rebecca transmitted on American military frequencies. "We are under attack by enemy aircraft approximately 5 miles from your border." The response came in the form of American fighter jets that had been scrambled to provide escort during the final minutes of Rebecca's escape flight. The appearance of friendly air support ended enemy pursuit and provided safe passage into American-controlled airspace. "Captain Morrison, you are cleared for immediate landing at forward operating base," came the radio transmission from American Air Traffic Control. "Medical personnel and intelligence officers are standing by." Rebecca's landing brought crowds of military personnel who had monitored her escape operation through intercepted enemy communications and satellite observation. Her tactical use of captured aircraft to rescue fellow prisoners represented an achievement that would be studied and admired throughout American military aviation communities. "Outstanding work, Captain," said Colonel Patterson as Rebecca shut down the enemy helicopter's engines. "Your actions have demonstrated capabilities that exceed anything we've seen in conventional prisoner operations." But even as she accepted congratulations from fellow military personnel, Rebecca understood that her most important victory wasn't the successful escape or the destruction of enemy facilities. She had proven that American military training could prepare soldiers to overcome impossible situations by thinking beyond conventional limitations. The 13 prisoners whose lives she had saved represented more than a successful rescue operation. They were proof that innovative thinking and tactical expertise could triumph over enemy forces who assumed that captured Americans were helpless victims rather than dangerous warriors looking for opportunities to fight back. The debriefing session that followed Rebecca's helicopter escape lasted 18 hours and involved intelligence officers from multiple agencies who understood they were documenting one of the most significant prisoner operations in military history. Every detail of her captivity, escape planning, and tactical execution would be analyzed and incorporated into survival training programs throughout the American military. "Captain Morrison, your tactical assessment of enemy helicopter operations proved remarkably accurate," observed Colonel Patterson while reviewing intelligence gathered during Rebecca's mission. "Your ability to predict their search patterns and defensive procedures suggests capabilities that extend far beyond conventional pilot training." Rebecca's response reflected the analytical thinking that had made her successful throughout 7 years of combat operations. Her escape hadn't been accomplished through luck or desperation, but through systematic intelligence gathering and tactical planning that exploited enemy weaknesses with surgical precision. Sir, enemy forces made several critical assumptions that created opportunities for exploitation, Rebecca explained while pointing to aerial photographs of the destroyed prison compound. They assumed captured pilots were intelligence assets rather than active threats, and they operated aircraft according to predictable patterns that could be intercepted. The intelligence value of Rebecca's mission exceeded the immediate success of rescuing 13 American prisoners. Her detailed observations of enemy aircraft capabilities, defensive procedures, and operational weaknesses provided insights that would influence American military planning for years to come. Your mechanical engineering background appears to have been crucial for understanding enemy systems, noted Major Lisa Chun, an intelligence officer specializing in aircraft technology. Can you elaborate on how technical knowledge contributed to mission success? Rebecca's explanation revealed the depth of analysis that had enabled her helicopter capture and subsequent combat operations. Her ability to quickly understand foreign aircraft systems had been based on fundamental engineering principles rather than specific familiarity with enemy equipment. Helicopters operate according to universal physical laws regardless of their country of origin, Rebecca replied. Understanding power transmission, hydraulic systems, and flight control principles allowed me to adapt my Apache training to enemy aircraft within minutes of capturing it. The broader implications of Rebecca's tactical innovations were becoming clear to military planners who recognized that her methods could revolutionize prisoner survival training. Her demonstration that captured personnel could turn enemy resources against their captors challenged conventional assumptions about prisoner operations. General Patricia Rodriguez, the commanding officer responsible for military aviation training, attended Rebecca's final debriefing session to personally evaluate tactical lessons that could be incorporated into pilot survival programs. Captain Morrison, your actions have proven that properly trained aviators can maintain offensive capabilities even under the most adverse circumstances, General Rodriguez observed. These lessons will be integrated into survival training for all helicopter pilots. 6 months later, Major Rebecca Morrison stood before an audience of military aviators, intelligence officers, and senior commanders to receive the Distinguished Service Cross for extraordinary heroism during prisoner operations. But the formal recognition represented only a small part of her achievement's significance. Major Morrison's tactical innovation during captivity and escape operations demonstrates the effectiveness of American military training when applied by personnel who understand how to think beyond conventional limitations, announced General Rodriguez during the award ceremony. The destroyed prison compound that had once held Rebecca and 13 fellow prisoners was never rebuilt. Intelligence reports indicated that enemy forces had fundamentally altered their approach to capturing American military personnel, understanding that helicopter pilots represented threats that could not be contained through conventional detention methods. Commander Petrov, the former prison camp commander, had been reassigned to administrative duties after his facility's destruction and the loss of valuable aircraft to escaped prisoners. His reputation as an expert in prisoner interrogation had been permanently damaged by tactical failures that allowed captives to turn his own weapons against him. The American pilot possessed capabilities that exceeded our intelligence estimates, Petrov admitted during his official review. Her technical knowledge and tactical expertise created vulnerabilities in our security procedures that we had not anticipated. Today, Lieutenant Colonel Rebecca Viper Morrison serves as the senior instructor for helicopter pilot survival training at the Army Aviation School, where she teaches advanced courses in prisoner survival, equipment improvisation, and adaptive Tactics under adverse conditions. Her students learned that helicopter pilots possess unique capabilities that remain effective even when separated from their aircraft, and that innovative thinking can transform any situation from hopeless captivity to tactical opportunity. The most dangerous assumption enemy forces can make is believing that captured pilots are helpless without their helicopters. Rebecca tells each new class of aviation students, "Every helicopter pilot is a warrior first, and warriors find ways to fight regardless of their circumstances." Her tactical innovations have been incorporated into survival training programs throughout American military aviation, ensuring that future generations of helicopter pilots will be prepared to exploit enemy weaknesses even under the most challenging conditions. The helicopter that Rebecca captured during her escape operation was extensively analyzed by American technical intelligence specialists who gained valuable insights into enemy aircraft capabilities and defensive systems. The intelligence gathered from her mission contributed to tactical advantages that influenced multiple subsequent operations. But perhaps the most significant impact of Rebecca's achievement was psychological rather than tactical. Her demonstration that captured American military personnel could turn enemy strength against hostile forces sent a message that resonated throughout military communities worldwide. Enemy forces learned that American helicopter pilots were not helpless prisoners to be exploited, but highly trained warriors who would use any available resources to continue fighting and protect their fellow soldiers. 2 years after her legendary escape, Lieutenant Colonel Rebecca Morrison stood in the briefing room at Fort Rucker, addressing a group of newly graduated helicopter pilots who would soon deploy to combat zones around the world. The walls around her displayed photographs from her career, Apache helicopters in flight, combat medals, and a single image that always drew the most attention: the enemy helicopter she had captured and used to destroy her former prison. Who can tell me the most important lesson from survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training? Rebecca asked the assembled pilots, her steel gray eyes scanning faces that showed the mixture of confidence and nervousness that characterized new aviators. "Never give up, ma'am," responded Lieutenant Amanda Foster, a young pilot who had graduated at the top of her flight training class. "Close, but not quite," Rebecca replied with a slight smile. "The most important lesson is that your most dangerous moment might also be your greatest opportunity, if you're prepared to recognize it." Rebecca's survival training program had revolutionized how the military prepared helicopter pilots for capture scenarios. Instead of focusing solely on endurance and resistance techniques, her curriculum emphasized tactical thinking, technical adaptation, and the psychological warfare aspects of captivity situations. "Your enemies will make assumptions about your capabilities based on your circumstances," Rebecca continued. "When Commander Petrov captured me, he saw a helpless prisoner separated from her aircraft. He never considered that helicopter pilots possess knowledge and skills that remain dangerous regardless of the situation." The story of Rebecca's escape had become legendary throughout military aviation communities, but the tactical innovations she developed during her captivity had practical applications that extended far beyond dramatic rescue scenarios. Her methods were being studied and implemented by special operations forces, intelligence personnel, and survival instructors worldwide. "Ma'am, how did you maintain tactical thinking during interrogation?" asked Lieutenant Michael Torres, whose own deployment orders would take him to regions where capture remained a significant risk. Rebecca's answer reflected lessons learned through professional experience that few military personnel would ever face. Her ability to gather intelligence while pretending to be a broken prisoner had required psychological discipline that challenged conventional survival training. Torres: "The key is understanding that captivity is just another form of combat operation," Rebecca explained. "Your enemies want information, cooperation, and psychological surrender. But every interaction provides intelligence that can be turned against them if you maintain situational awareness. The technical aspects of Rebecca's helicopter capture had been incorporated into pilot training programs that emphasized mechanical understanding alongside flight skills. A demonstration that engineering knowledge could enable rapid adaptation to foreign aircraft systems had influenced how the military selected and trained aviation personnel. Your mechanical engineering background was crucial for operating enemy aircraft, observed Captain Jennifer Walsh, an instructor pilot who taught advanced helicopter systems. How should pilots without engineering training prepare for similar situations? Rebecca's response addressed one of the most practical aspects of her tactical innovations. While not every pilot possessed formal engineering education, understanding fundamental principles of helicopter operation could provide advantages during crisis situations. Walsh, every helicopter pilot needs to understand the physics behind rotary wing flight, Rebecca replied. Power transmission, hydraulic systems, flight control principles. These concepts are universal regardless of aircraft nationality or specific design features. The psychological impact of Rebecca's escape continued to influence military planning and enemy behavior 2 years after her dramatic helicopter operation. Intelligence reports indicated that hostile forces had significantly altered their approach to capturing American military personnel, understanding that helicopter pilots represented ongoing threats rather than passive intelligence sources. Enemy forces now assume that captured American aviators will attempt to escape using their own aircraft against them, reported Colonel Patterson during a recent intelligence briefing. Rebecca's tactical innovation has created permanent changes in how our enemies approach prisoner operations. But perhaps the most significant legacy of Rebecca's achievement was the message it sent to American military personnel worldwide. A demonstration that innovative thinking could overcome seemingly impossible circumstances, provided inspiration and practical guidance for soldiers facing their own challenging situations. The guards who laughed when they captured me made a fundamental error, Rebecca told her students as the training session concluded. They assumed that separating a helicopter pilot from her aircraft eliminated the threat she represented. Instead, they gave me the opportunity to study their weaknesses and turn their own weapons against them. The final slide of Rebecca's presentation showed a simple message that had become the motto of her survival training program. The most dangerous prisoner is one who understands that captivity is just another tactical situation waiting to be exploited. As her students filed out of the briefing room, preparing for deployments that would test everything they had learned during their training, Rebecca reflected on the journey that had transformed her from a captured prisoner into one of the military's most respected survival instructors. Commander Petrov had dismissed her as just another captured pilot, never imagining that his prisoner possessed the knowledge, skills, and determination to turn his own helicopter into an instrument of his facility's destruction. His mistake had become a lesson that would protect American military personnel for generations to come. The helicopter that Rebecca had captured during her escape now sat in the National Museum of the United States Army, its enemy markings preserved alongside a plaque that told the story of how one pilot's tactical thinking had transformed a moment of defeat into legendary victory. Visitors to the museum often asked tour guides about the foreign helicopter displayed among American aircraft, and the story they heard never failed to inspire amazement. How a captured pilot had not only escaped from enemy territory, but had turned her captor's own weapons against them, proving that true warriors can find victory in any situation. Today, Rebecca's tactical innovations continue to influence military training programs worldwide. A demonstration that captured personnel can maintain offensive capabilities through innovative thinking has become a cornerstone of survival education. For special operations forces, intelligence personnel, And aviation specialists taught the lesson that enemy forces learned from Rebecca's escape. That American helicopter pilots remain dangerous even when separated from their aircraft serves as a deterrent that protects military personnel operating in hostile territory. Her legacy ensures that future enemies will think twice before assuming that captured American aviators are helpless prizes rather than highly trained warriors looking for opportunities to strike back. Rebecca Morrison had proven that sometimes the most devastating counterattacks come from those who were dismissed as defeated. Her story reminds us that underestimating your opponent's capabilities, especially when that opponent is a highly trained military professional, can transform their moment of apparent weakness into your moment of absolute destruction. The enemy guards who had laughed as they threw Captain Rebecca Morrison into their prison camp learned too late that they hadn't captured just another pilot. They had captured someone who would use their own helicopter to hunt them through the same forest they thought would be her grave. And in doing so, she had written a chapter in military history that would inspire and protect American warriors for generations to come. If you enjoyed this incredible story of courage and tactical brilliance, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Everyday Life Stories community. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who thought they had complete control over you? Share your own stories of turning the tables in the comments section. Your experiences might inspire our next incredible tale of triumph against impossible odds.